In the rolling hills of a quiet pasture, a flock of sheep grazed under the watchful eye of their shepherd. Day after day, they spent their hours nibbling on the lush green grass, soaking in the warmth of the sun, and huddling together for safety. Among them, there was an unspoken fear, a terror that kept them vigilant even when there was no immediate threat. They feared the wolf. For generations, stories of the wolf had been passed down among the sheep. Tales of sharp teeth, cold eyes, and deadly intent haunted their thoughts. Yet, in all that time, not one sheep had ever seen the wolf. Still, the fear persisted, a shadow over their peaceful existence. The shepherd, a kind and attentive man, did his best to protect his flock. He built a sturdy fence around the pasture and ensured that a designated sheep stood watch every night. This watch sheep was to alert the others at the first sign of danger, though no one had ever raised the alarm. The routine became a ritual, a nightly vigil against an unseen enemy. One chilly autumn night, it was Benjamin's turn to stand watch. Benjamin was an older sheep, wise and reliable. As the stars twinkled above, he settled into his spot near the fence, his eyes scanning the darkness. The air was still, and the only sounds were the soft rustling of the leaves and the gentle breathing of the sleeping flock. As the hours passed, Benjamin's eyelids grew heavy. He fought against the drowsiness, reminding himself of the stories of the wolf, but fatigue was a formidable foe. Just before dawn, Benjamin succumbed to sleep, his head drooping low. The flock slept peacefully, unaware of the danger lurking in the shadows. When the first light of morning crept over the hills, a shrill bleat of horror shattered the silence. The flock awoke to find one of their own missing. Where Daisy had lain, there was now only a trail of blood leading into the dense brush. Panic spread like wildfire. The wolf had struck. The days that followed were fraught with tension and fear. The sheep kept closer together, their eyes darting nervously. Despite the increased vigilance, another sheep, Jasper, went missing the next night, leaving behind a similar bloody trail. The terror was palpable, the sense of doom overwhelming. On the third night, a chill settled over the pasture. The sheep were restless, their nerves frayed. This time, more than one sheep decided to stay awake. They formed a circle, their eyes scanning the darkness, ears straining for any sound. Benjamin was there too, guilt-ridden and determined not to fail again. As the moon reached its zenith, a shadowy figure emerged from the brush. The sheep tensed, ready to bleat in alarm, but the figure was not a wolf. It was a sheep. Oliver, one of their own, stood at the edge of the circle, his eyes wild and gleaming in the moonlight. "It's him," Benjamin whispered, a horrified realization dawning. "Oliver is the wolf." Confusion and fear gripped the flock. How could one of their own be the predator? But the evidence was there, the missing sheep, the blood. The sheep began to bleat accusations, their fear turning to anger. Convinced that Oliver was a wolf in sheep's disguise, they attacked. The scene was brutal. The once peaceful flock descended upon Oliver with a fury born of terror and desperation. Their hooves and teeth tore at him, ripping him apart in a gruesome frenzy. Oliver's cries for mercy were drowned out by the bleeding rage of the flock. When the dawn broke, all that remained of Oliver was a bloodied, lifeless form. But the violence did not end there. The seed of mistrust had been sown. Fueled by paranoia, the flock began to see threats in every shadow, enemies in every face. Day by day, night by night, they turned on each other. Accusations flew, and sheep after sheep was singled out, believed to be part of a larger conspiracy, and met the same violent end as Oliver. The once thriving flock was decimated, reduced to a mere handful. Each night, more blood was spilled, and the survivors grew more haggard and deranged. Finally, only 2 sheep remained, Benjamin and Lily. They stood apart, watching each other with bloodshot eyes, gaunt and sickly from lack of sleep and the constant fear that the other might be the next threat. Their once vibrant pasture was now a scene of carnage, the grass stained with the blood of their kin. The shepherd, noticing the absence of bleating and the sight of carrion birds circling, hurried to the field one cold winter morning. What he found was a massacre. The 2 remaining sheep were barely recognizable, their eyes filled with madness. They trembled, too weak to flee, too paranoid to rest. The shepherd, heartbroken and bewildered, knew something terrible had happened. He could see the signs of violence, the torn bodies of his flock, the desperation in the eyes of the last two sheep. Believing a brain-eating disease had caused his sheep to turn on each other, driving them to madness, the shepherd made a heartbreaking decision. With a heavy heart, he raised his rifle and ended the suffering of the last two sheep. As the gunshots echoed through the valley, a cunning wolf sat high atop a distant hill, watching the scene unfold. He had been the true orchestrator of the chaos, though not by direct action. Weeks earlier, he had cornered a lone sheep, whispering a sinister promise into its ear. He offered the sheep a chance to be spared if it provided sacrifices to the wolf. The wolf had not expected the sheep to take the message to heart in such a literal and devastating way. As he watched the shepherd walk away, leaving behind the empty pasture, the wolf felt a strange mix of confusion and curiosity. He had achieved the same results he would have by nights of planning and stalking and chasing, simply by planting a seed of fear. In the end, the true enemy had not been the wolf lurking in the shadows, but the fear and mistrust that had taken root in the hearts of the sheep. It was a lesson in the power of terror, a dark tale of how easily the mind can be turned against itself. The wolf trotted away, his hunger sated not by flesh, but by the knowledge of how easily fear can destroy. The pasture lay silent, a testament to the destructive power of paranoia. And somewhere in the vast, rolling hills of that quiet valley, the spirit of Oliver lingered, a reminder that sometimes the greatest monsters are the ones we create within ourselves.